Oh, every single year.
Let me tell you what's going to happen. We're going to have our say, and then it's over to you. But in this Arsenal debate that we're about to have, let's show some respect and dignity. I don't want any name-calling with regard to Arsene Wenger. There's not been enough balanced analysis, I don't think. Too much protection of Wenger from ex-players and the media over the last few years. They love his press conferences, so he's going to get away with a lot. I'm about to give you the truth. Last night, selection terrible, players terrible except Ospina, and to a lesser extent Sanchez, tactics horrific. So the manager is a huge part of the problem. It's wrong to state that it's just down to the players who have let him down. It's a myth that no money's been spent as well. So let's get that one out of the way for a start. Mustafi was 35 million, Xhaka 32 million, Ozil 42 million, Sanchez 37 million, Giroud, Cech, Koscielny, Walcott, Oxlade-Chamberlain, all 10 million and over. He spent money. Manager doesn't learn lessons from previous mistakes. That's a huge flaw in his makeup. The manager repeatedly admits his team is mentally weak. Why isn't he addressing that? It's been going on for seasons. Mesut Ozil is the biggest signing he's made in terms of talent and transfer fee. Why isn't Wenger able to get the best out of him? Big flaw, again, in the manager's makeup. Why didn't the manager go over to the fans? This is the one thing I'm really annoyed about with Arsene Wenger, and I think it's a huge problem at the football club right now. Why didn't Arsene Wenger go over to the fans to applaud them last night? Why didn't he order his players to do the same? As far as I'm aware, it's only Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain went over to the fans, right up to the fans, to applaud them and thank them for not only going over there and spending money, but for watching that rubbish. Those fans paid a fortune for travel and tickets and a fortune for the alcohol necessary to cope with that kind of performance. But the manager shows those fans no respect. He shows those fans no gratitude, and most of the players are equally dismissive. A half-hearted clap from the halfway line, not enough, I'm afraid. There's been bad results, a lack of success, humiliation for Arsenal on a regular basis. It's the second 5-1 defeat at Bayern Munich in the season running. Failure to properly compete at all levels, really. It's the hallmark of this Arsenal era right now under Arsene Wenger. But the biggest problem is that massive disconnect between the fans and the club, between the fans and the manager. It's huge, and I think it's irreparable. The situation's untenable. The job now for Wenger is to put in place the foundations for future success, and this is where we get constructive, Darren. Make sure top players are under long-term contract. That's a massive problem right now. Make sure the finances of the club are sustainable, and most importantly, advise the board on a successor. Arsene Wenger, if he leaves a mess for somebody else to clear up, I'm afraid his legacy is totally ruined. Okay, so he needs to be hands-on in seeing the job through. Somebody else can take over. He's the only man with football knowledge in a position of authority at Arsenal Football Club. It's a massive concern for them going forward. They should all go all out to get, in my opinion, I always ask for people, if they say the manager's got to go, to come up with a replacement. I think they should go for Sampaoli, who's at Sevilla. He's built on what Unai Emery created there. They're doing very well this season. He's been a continental champion with Chile, and of course that brings the added bonus of giving Arsenal the very best chance of keeping Alexis Sanchez, because he cannot be allowed to leave. Now, I've never called for Wenger to be sacked, ever. I've always said he should go upstairs. I've consistently said he used to be brilliant, but he isn't anymore. He should now, Goffey, step aside, spend a year or 2 years educating the board and everyone at Arsenal about football, while a more competent team manager takes charge of affairs on the field and leads Arsenal to a place where it should be. Let's do it dignified, let's show some respect, but Arsene Wenger can no longer be the man to run team affairs at the football club, can he?
Well, it's just a replay after replay after replay every single season. I think there's not much else to add on that, but I think with the players, they obviously are mentally weak. The manager keeps saying it. You had Mertesacker when he was in the side. He was saying it also, but mentally, we've got a problem. Mentally, we weren't prepared. The manager, every time they go out or lose and get battered, he will come out and say, mentally, we weren't right. You can't keep doing that. There's no natural leaders. I think that's obvious. When you've got Sanchez on the field, and for some reason he's not giving the captain's armband, and you look who got given it instead of him, you've got to start having a big question mark at the end of that. Physically in games, they start off well. They seem to fall away towards the end of it, so they get bullied during games. I also heard the quote many times when Arsenal play, and it's too many times, is meant against boys. You can't keep hearing that season after season. It has to be addressed from the manager. He's failed to address that. And this is from someone, by the way, who loves Arsene Wenger. How many times have I said about Arsene Wenger? If he can come back and win a title from here and do it in a second period where he's had that gap and do it again, it would be absolutely amazing. But it doesn't look as though it's ever going to happen now, because this is the problem. He believes next year will be that year. And that's the thing that keeps him going. That's why he won't walk away. He's scared to walk away in case next year is that season when Arsenal do it. And he keeps believing it. Next year we'll do it. These players will turn up next year, we'll do it. We'll add another £40 million player to it. That'll be the turning point. We'll do it. No, because other teams are evolving. Other teams are improving. Other teams have got managers who are more in touch with what's going on. Other teams have got players in their side who are tough and toughen up the midfield or toughen up the defence. Arsenal keep failing to do that. Year after year, the same results. Last 16 failure in the Champions League. No title. But guess what? Financially, they're in a great position because they'll get into the Champions League. The Arsenal team and the management had no answers to Bayern Munich last night. And this is a Bayern Munich we were kept getting told weren't at their best. We keep getting told that players when they get to 28 and 29 are too old. Bayern Munich on the right hand side had Robben and Lahm. Now they're just a little bit younger than me. 13 years.
They're in their 30s.
But they're young. They're old in football terms. They absolutely ran rings round them. And then guess what? In midfield, they've got another 30-odd-year-old. He ran rings round everybody in midfield. So all this age thing, rubbish. If there's a player out there that improves your side, go get him. It's the same players, season after season, who are failing. And if I was part of that, I agree with it. I got criticised as a sportsman myself because I was part of a team that kept going to Australia and getting beat time and time again. And we had to get all out of the side before it was a clean slate, and someone came in with clean players and started winning Ashes series. That's what it needs. I've been in that same position, what they're in now. Too many players are used to losing. Gibbs, Koscielny, Ox, Walcott, Ramsey. That's just naming a few off the top of my head. That's it from me.
Let's hear from you then. Let's get straight into it. Josh is an Arsenal fan. What do you got to say, Josh?
Yeah, how you doing? Everything both of you said, couldn't agree with more. I think all the fans agree with it. There's nothing to be said on that front. But the thing is now as fans, the club needs to address the situation, or Wenger does, and make it clear if it's staying or going. If he's staying, we'll all be appalled, we'll hate it, the media will go nuts, the fans will go nuts. But somehow we'd have to accept it, is what it is. But they need to come out, and if he's going, fine, there'll be no abuse, the fans will move on, the media will move on, finish the rest of the season, what we've got to do, plan for next year, and get on with it. But at least we know. But not knowing, being left in this situation, the atmosphere is poisonous, it's toxic, it's killing us, it's killing the fans, probably killing the players, killing the club. And we have a right to know what's going on. Because if he leaves at the end of the season and decides, come May, right, it's not for me, I'm off, like you said, his legacy will be smashed to bits to a point where I'm not sure many fans will even turn around and have a good word to say about him.
I think you're right, Josh. The only problem with that is that happened at Man City, didn't it? They announced that Pellegrini was leaving. It was going to be Guardiola taking over. It was around January time, wasn't it? And that didn't. I don't think that was quite right. So that's a difficult one. If he is going to go, the thing is,
would it be different the way because he's been there so long?
It might be.
I think it would be a celebration. With Pellegrini, it was that people feeling, they felt sorry for him. But I think with Arsene Wenger, I think the fans would actually celebrate then his career at Arsenal because he's had a wonderful career.
It will be a dignified way to go.
Absolutely wonderful.
But the problem you've got is there's nobody who would make that decision other than Arsene Wenger. So, and he's got a 2-year contract offer sitting on the table. He's got £7.5–8 million a year sitting there waiting to be signed. I think that's an incredible fella who turns that down. You know, that's a big decision. If you're an individual and you're going to turn that down, and what you're doing is you're turning it down and saying, I have failed in the last few years here and I can't get it any better. It's like you say, he always thinks it's next year. Will he sign again and think next year's the year?
I think his biggest fear, this is the only thing that's stopping him. What is he now, 67?
Something like that, yeah.
67 years old. I mean, you don't know what's round the corner. If I was 67 years old and I'd been earning 8 million a year for the last, 10, 12 years, I'd be off, mate. I'd be off and say, well, good luck to it. Well, you would, wouldn't you? I want to enjoy my life. You've seen them pictures of him sliding down that slide and on the boat. I'd be doing that rest of my life and enjoying it and living it.
He's been earning TV money on the top of that as well, by the way.
But I just think the fear he must have, and I kind of get it, is worried, but he's going to walk away and a manager's going to come in and find that magic key and win the title or win the Champions League. And it's going to be that regret from him, but should I have walked away? But yes, you should, because you're not going to do it.
Well, that's
because
what it
it's
seems
ingrained in the players now, that failure. You saw his face last night. He was shot to pieces.
Gone, yeah.
And I hate that, because he is a legend, Arsene Wenger.
A legend of the club, I get that. And what he could do is, if he goes, somebody else is instantly successful, he can claim that he laid the foundations. Whether people believe that is another matter. Some people might automatically think that. It's a difficult situation for him to address. But he has to. Everybody I've spoken to seems to think now is the time, but do it in the right way. Now, in Europe, it used to be heroic failure for Arsenal, and now it's humiliating failure for them. How long can this go on? This is TalkSport.